I want to take a look at this picture. You actually touched the same podium. I'm sure you've seen this in microphone as the president and other CEOs, even at the same time. The vice president has taken a test for coronavirus. He tested the president has tested negative, I should say. His Vice President Pence, have you taken a test? Are you going to take a test?
No. Well, I'm not taking a test for the summer reason. I have no symptoms. I have not. I'm practicing pretty good social distancing. I don't go to.
But it's hard to. It's hard to fully do it as we.
But not everybody in the United States should take a test. I mean, I have no symptoms. There's no reason for me to take a test. If I'm in a situation where I'm at a higher risk, I will take a test. The picture you showed about the microphone. Let's get real here. I mean, there are certain things that you have to do. If I left the microphone at that, you would see nothing but the microphone. My putting my 2 fingers to get the microphone down isn't that bad. So I don't think we should make something of that. I'd like to see people more doing this as opposed to shaking hands.
What the heck does a CNN anchor, somebody reads off a teleprompter basically, think she's doing badgering the head of the CDC about whether or not he has been tested? Does she think, I'm just wondering, does she think she has better judgment about this? Really think this one through for a second, CNN. Because I would like to get to a place where we can just focus on this as people without any nonsense, without any games, without any partisan crap. But CNN's making that pretty hard, along with some others. Clearly doing what they can to make the response to this seem like it's unacceptable. The response somehow is inept, and they want the panic to be even greater than it already is. I don't think we need CNN to be telling us that this is serious anymore. We get it. We get it. But they're not being serious because they can't help but score political points. There is this mentality, and let's just be honest about it. There is this mentality that finally the psycho left is getting its way. They can't help it. It comes out in their coverage. They celebrate when the Dow plummets. They celebrate when the stock market's getting crushed, when businesses are being told to shut down, when airlines are just losing their butts right now. I mean, they're like, yeah, see, Trump's so bad. It's a global pandemic, you morons. Is the leadership of the UK, of Spain, of Italy, of name a country, China, or they're all just inept and buffoons? They're all dealing with this. There are now more countries than anybody can name off the top of their head that have cases of this. And we're just now seeing how bad it's going to get. But they already want to celebrate the failure of this country to be able to beat this thing quickly because they think it hurts Trump. It's disgusting. And that's also why the complaint 2 weeks ago, as I remember it, might have even been until last week, was that Trump was silencing experts. Now you get experts going on CNN to, like Dr. Fauci, the most well-known of all infectious disease experts in this country. And he's being told, hey, why aren't you getting a test? Why aren't you doing what I think you should do here? They were complaining about Trump last week. Now, aren't you being selfish? That was what was asked at a press conference. A moronic question. Okay, so Trump got a test. He doesn't have it. There's also a difference here because these individuals who are coordinating the effort, they have to be in meetings. They have to be out there rallying the troops. They don't have the luxury of just preventative self-quarantine without any real symptoms or any real reason to believe they've been directly exposed in a way. There's different protocols for different people. But there you had a not particularly bright CNN journalist going at it with Dr. Fauci himself over, well, why aren't you getting tested? Why don't you do these things that I want you to? Because he's trying to stop thousands of people from dying. Thanks, CNN. Good job. They're absolutely insane. But I need to give you some examples of this now. This is real. It's out there. Jennifer Rubin, who's really a performance artist, who's built a career pretending to be a conservative, to debase conservatism, and for the amusement of the left and the amusement of media elites who think that it's just so fantastic that she's calling herself a true conservative while doing nothing but undermining conservatives at every possible opportunity. Here is what Jennifer Rubin has to say about where her mind is right now on this whole thing. Play clip 3.
There's also a Washington Post piece that talks about the fact that older Americans are more worried about coronavirus unless they're Republican, Jennifer. Yeah. That we now have a situation where Trump's own people are actually in greater danger, but those of us who live in this earth can't even reach them. They're not listening to anything that any of us say, including someone like you who's a former Republican. You can't reach them.
No, and there is a particular cruelty, irony, that it is their core viewers, the Republican older viewers, as Eric said, who are the most at risk. And when you think about it, which party immediately canceled all of their rallies? Which party immediately started having their political figures really portray and use their lives as an example? It was the Democrats. So they're going to be, I hate to put it in these terms, there are going to be less Democrat deaths because of there will be less mass gatherings. There will be less opportunities for people to congregate and share this horrible disease. So it is a really a very short-sighted strategy. But I think now the name of the game is, how do they get back on planet Earth?
Disgusting and really stupid. And I don't think anyone needs me to explain that this is what is called a crowd disease. That is what you can refer to. Measles, mumps, flu, this crowd disease. Spreads because of population density. Who is really most at risk from this disease if you're talking about general population? Cities. But I'm not even going to go there and do this breakdown of political affiliation. She's saying there's going to be more Republican deaths. Who thinks about it that way? Who does that? It's so idiotic. It's so dumb. And it also, I think, is showing us that, and she's not the only one who feels this way. I mean, there are other people in the media that have platforms that are raised as experts. Jennifer Rupert's an expert in nothing, but there are other people that, based on the way they cover this and the way they talk about this, it's quite clear that they think there's a little bit of a like, yeah, Trump, this whole situation, he's such a buffoon. He kind of deserves to have to deal with this. And, you know, his supporters, they deserve. It's like, we're all in this together, you morons. How can you think that this is about political party? Trump had nothing to do with this virus. Trump didn't cause it. It's not a response to Trumpism. This is yet another virus coming out of China because of Chinese practices of selling rare animals. But more to the point, actually, it's usually that the way that Chinese handle livestock in such enormous numbers, there's a lot of people that are close to large numbers of livestock, and so it provides the zoonotic transmission nodes that allow diseases to jump from the animal population, animal reservoir, I think they call it sometimes. Everyone's obviously, I'm reading so much about disease these days. I feel like I'm that guy, Dr. House, who just walks around like, no, maybe I'll fix you, but also I'm going to make fun of you first. You remember that show? Actually, pretty good show. Massive Attack in the theme song. It's the name of the band. So, yeah, man. I mean, here we are. Trying to figure out what to do about this, and you have these Democrat buffoons. I mean, Jennifer Rubin, former Republican. That's amazing that she would have believed in a political ideology for all of her life until, I don't know, she's probably in her late 40s, early 50s, and now all of a sudden she figures out she was wrong. That's pretty remarkable, isn't it? What has been done so far? If we're really going to take a, wait, before I get to that, here's another one that I could not help but say, there are people that are specifically using this opportunity to try to dunk, not just on the Trump administration, but on anybody who's ever supported Trump. Keep in mind, I sit here as someone who's a Trump supporter in the media. I've been right, without exception, on everything having to do with Russia-Trump collusion, on everything that was going on with impeachment, what a sham, what a joke it was, and, the whole, all these things. We've been on the right side of that. On the Trump economy, Trump tax cuts, Trump border policy, Trump foreign policy, all these different issues. We've been right on this. And the detractors, the haters, as Trump says, have been wrong. And the media is livid about this because even though their supporters, their viewers at places like MSNBC and CNN don't really deal with any realistic accounting of the truth, they just would rather believe what they believe, there is still an anger at those of us who have been able to say, well, we're right, you're wrong, and so we're definitely not going to pretend like you were right this whole time about things like Russia-Trump collusion. Here's an MSNBC guest who just uses this as an opportunity to take a cheap shot at Fox News. And by the way, not a cheap shot like they're wrong or I don't like it. You need to hear this cheap shot for yourself. Play 18.
Look, Fox News has been getting people killed for years. I mean, just look at their crusade against affordable health care, their crusade against expanding Medicaid. This is not unusual for them. It's far more dire. I mean, I've been watching and documenting Fox News for 15 years. I mean, they are a cancer on this country. There's no question about it. So who knows what they're going to do? Their programming is to vilify, stir hatred and paranoia. And if they're going to, if it's a pandemic is the backdrop, then they're going to do it.
Getting people killed. Fox News. That's what this guy says. Do you think MSNBC chides him for this at all? You think he gets called into the executive producer's office? Hey, maybe you should slow your roll on that a little bit. No, of course not. He's giving the MSNBC anti-Trump deranged left exactly what they want. You can't be anti-Trump enough for them. That's where we've been now for years. There's no such thing as too anti-Trump. Trump is responsible for anything and everything. He's the worst thing to ever happen to the universe. Oh my God, he's so terrible. This is where they are. This is the reality of how they present their experts on TV, so-called experts on TV. It's astonishing. There are rumors, by the way, going around of a national curfew now as I'm on air. This is where we are, folks. We're seeing this. There was also yesterday. There were rumors going around about this I think there was even a text message scam. I don't even know how it was supposed to work, but about national quarantine and national mandatory quarantine for everybody, and that domestic airspace is going to be shut down. And look, there are some steps that are pretty extreme that are being considered, that I've heard about them being considered. I've also just thought about it, and it's likely. There's a reason why I set up the mobile Freedom Hut last week, because I knew that this was going to get much worse. And by the way, there's it gets much worse because of the disease, and then there's also it gets much worse. These are two separate but related concepts, just because of our response to it too. The response can make things much worse. Many more shutdowns, far greater movement restrictions. Producer Mark, what's the latest? Does New Jersey do we have confirmation that did New Jersey now? Because states, remember, you gotta remember they have police power, so they'll do things that the federal government can't really constitutionally do without declaring martial law. I mean, there's posse comitatus. There are these restrictions what the federal government can do. States under police powers can do a lot. Do we know about New Jersey?
Yeah, New Jersey has a non-essential travel ban between 8 p.m. and 5 a.m.
Whew. So, Producer Mark, you're able to move around until 8 o'clock because you're a New Jersey resident now, right?
Yes.
That's
Don't ask me to come to the Freedom Hut early in the morning, I guess.
Yeah, I guess you can't get here super early. Mark has quite the work ethic, but he's not going to be allowed to show up and spend 4 hours of prep. Doesn't work out with the timing of it. So there's going to be more of these changes for sure. More of these. Lockdown. That's where we are. But Mike Pence, who is the coordinator of this whole response at this point, he's out there telling everybody that we got to remember, where we are now and where we would be if we hadn't taken some drastic measures early on. Play clip 7.
Well, everything that the White House Coronavirus Task Force does is at the direction of the President of the United States. All the efforts of all federal agencies in cooperation with state governments and local health officials is reflective of the decisive leadership the President has brought this early on. It's important to remember that the President on January 31st suspended all travel from China. I said to Dr. Fauci today, as we look at Europe now being the epicenter of the coronavirus, that I asked him if we had not suspended all travel from China, what our circumstance would be, and he essentially said we'd be where Europe is today.
Right. We would be right now where Italy is right now, where they have the entire north of the country completely locked down, no travel, where they've had, a few thousand dead, I believe now in total. They've had thousands and thousands of cases, and they're still in the upswing of cases, and their health system is already at the breaking point. So we're not there right now because of a decision that President Trump made early on. And if we're going to play the blame game, and unfortunately we're going to have to because they're going to try to put they're already setting the stage that they will blame Trump for the damage to the economy. They will blame Trump for every death in this country. They're going to act like he was incompetent and didn't do anything, no matter what the final death toll from this disease is, and no matter what the final state of the economy is. I mean, unless we have some miracle rally before the election and everything is looking great all of a sudden, which, look, I'm not saying that's completely impossible. I mean, here's with the president pointing out that there's a lot of buying going on. I want to talk more about this. There's a lot of buying going on. Play clip 22.
They're buying a lot of additional things to sell, but again, they actually have asked me to say, could you buy a little bit less, please? I thought I'd never hear that from a retailer. All of them are working hand in hand with the federal government as well as the state and local leaders to ensure food and essentials are constantly available, and they'll do it. There's no shortages. We have no shortages other than people are buying anywhere from 3 to 5 times what they would normally buy. It's going to be there for a long time. We're doing numbers, and there's a pent-up demand that's incredible.
All right, I got to talk more about this with the panic buying that's going on and what I saw myself. I did some grocery shopping over the weekend here in New York. I gotta ask our dear friend producer Mark here. Producer Mark, you moved on Saturday, and we were all thinking about how that was going to go. At least I was. And I think some in the audience who remembered you were moving in the midst of all this. How did it shake out?
Well, the move itself went fine. The movers came, got rid of
Good
my
for
old
them,
couch
by
and
the
all
way.
this stuff. Yeah, they didn't cancel on me. I'm glad. It was just when I had to go to, like, say, Target to buy stuff, the lines are crazy. There was no food, so I went Saturday night. I could barely get any food for the house. Sunday, I went during the day, and they had finally restocked, like, mac and cheese, pasta, stuff like that was non-perishable that I could finally get in the house. So at least I have something to eat this week. It's just in the future, I don't know how I'm going to get more food in the house.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I'm amazed to see how much the panic buying is really around a few items. Because I was in Whole Foods, which is a complete. I mean, you want to try to stay out of these grocery stores as much as you can. It was a zoo. I mean, there are people everywhere running around. I mean, it was really packed. So it's not a good place to be during a pandemic, but I mean, people got to get food. And if you want to try to wait for food delivery service, you might wait for who knows how many days. But the things that you're seeing that are getting panic bought, obviously toilet paper, paper towel, detergent, basic household need stuff, people are hoarding it. And really, everyone has to be realistic about this. If you buy enough for 30 days, if in 30 days all of a sudden the shelves are bare everywhere, we got big problems, my friends, okay? You got to sort of bet on America being able to. We're not in a financial crisis. We're in a disease crisis that's causing financial problems, and we need to remember that as we're trying to make these decisions about what to buy and how much to get, and trying to be responsible to those around us, too, to our communities. So when I was shopping myself, and I did a bit of shopping for my parents, and one reason why I've had to go outside is we got to walk the dog. We got the family dog here, so I got to take little Tallulah out, and she's just like, what's all the hubbub, man? She doesn't, because it turns out dogs can't get coronavirus. That's a good thing. There were concerns for a little while. There was a dog, I think in Hong Kong, they thought tested positive, but dogs can't get coronavirus. So she's good to go. But I'm walking around on streets here in New York and you see people in the street and you cross the street now because you're just trying to create that social distancing even when you're just walking past someone. And you try not to touch anything. Every time you push the elevator button or you open the door and you put your hand on it. And one thing that, you're taking a risk with all that. And one thing that I do believe is going to come out of this is the handshake may never really be back. Depends on how long this whole thing goes on, but the handshake may never really go back. And also doors that are essentially motion sensor opened or any number of, these what do you call them, Mark? We have them at the studio there, where it's just like touchless entry or touchless exit.
Yeah, touch-free entry or
touch-free entry. Yeah. I think you're going to see that now. Every place that can afford to put that in, at least big commercial ventures and everything, they're just going to say, we shouldn't have people, I was annoyed over the weekend because I kept having to go to the store and they say, okay, put your chip in. Look, it's my credit card. I'll use it. And I get that hopefully my hands are clean as I'm touching it. I'm going to go home and wash my hands. But then they want you to push that, is this okay button? And look, I'm all about raising money for charity, whatever it may be, but they do this. Okay, now do you want to donate to charity? Oh, I got to press the button again. Okay, now is this okay? Oh, okay, the final price? Yeah, I got to press this again. So I'm pressing the button 3 times, and then I have to reach down and use the pen. And people tell me, oh, use the chip on the credit card. I was using the chip. I only have chip credit cards. So then I reach down, I grab the pen, and I'm looking at this thing. I'm like, this is a virus stick. How many hundreds of people have all touched this thing today? I mean, this is a terrible idea. Why are we being forced to do this? We should, every store you go into, every grocery store, you take your credit card, you swipe, you're done. That's it. No more pushing the stupid green button. No more pushing the little pen or, using that. You're scrawling in a legible signature anyway. Does anyone actually you can't make a signature on those things. I end up just making a big circle or making like an X or something. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Circle gets a square. So the other thing you see with the panic buying is certain things go and others don't. And it's quite a test of human psychology here. Pasta is like gold these days. So I suppose there are at least some people who feel like if the end times come, they'll at least have a few weeks of orecchiette, spaghettini, ricotta cheese, ravioli, you name it. I'm a producer, Mark. What is your Italian food for the end of the world? What if you can only have one pasta in stock? What's it going to be?
I'm going to go ravioli.
Ravioli.
Yeah.
That's a strong choice.
Yeah.
See, I'm a simple man, so I would just go mac and cheese, man.
I don't really think of that as Italian. That's more of an American food. US Italian.
Hey, it's a macaroni noodle. Hey, producer Mark, come on. It's a macaroni.
By the way, the only mac and cheese mix that was left on Saturday night, all the vegan stuff.
Yeah, vegan stuff.
Even they can't even sell it when it's a world crisis.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think that a lot of the stores, they have vegan stuff just because I feel like if they don't, vegans will complain and get mad at them. But clearly, there's the market for this stuff is not as big as it is for all these other things. Yeah, I mean, so the pasta's all gone. Meat, which I'm happy to see. People want to make sure they've got red meat in the freezer, so it's tough to get meat. I got the last. This is actually kind of funny. I got the last roaster chicken at Whole Foods, whole chicken. And I got that last chicken, and then I also got the last packet of fresh tarragon. And there was a gentleman who was working at Whole Foods who definitely looked a little bit like he had just come from a fish show. And I was like, dude, do you have, I said, excuse me, sir. I did not say dude. I said, excuse me, sir. Do you have any Grey Poupon? Just kidding. Do you have any tarragon? And he said, yo, man, like, I think there might be some that, like, someone stashed behind the mushrooms. And I was kind of like, what's going on here? Does this guy think is tarragon like a code word for, something else? Like, am I trying to get a little bit of the ganj or something? A little bit of the Mary Jane? Like, what is he talking about? Turns out this guy was totally spot on. And for no apparent reason, there was a package of fresh tarragon hidden behind like a hole in the mushroom section. And he just remembered. I was like, sir, you are a genius. How did you know? Like, yeah, man, I just got stuff and got it done. So I was able to make my roast tarragon. Again, I told you I'm making these dishes that I would never normally make because I'm stuck indoors here in New York City and getting a little stir crazy. I started to think also like, oh, maybe I'll watch, 28 Days Later and I'll watch The Strain. And no, probably a bad idea. I'm going to start watching more Disney shows and things like that make me happy. I'll get to that later on. What you should do and what we should all try to accomplish during this time of lockdown, because it's gonna be a while, my friends. It's not going away anytime soon. So, people buy pasta, they buy red meat, butter. I'm noticing butter shortages too. You have these staples that all go, and I would hope that folks don't think that they need to stock up for the next 6 months, because it's not possible. They won't be able to keep. So if you've got 6 months of toilet paper in your closet that you just bought now, if you've been stacking up for years, I feel like that's, good for you on preparing. But if you're trying to buy 6 months of toilet paper right now, that means other people aren't going to be able to get next week's toilet paper. And that's the reality of the system that we have. So We'll have to see if the panic buying and the shortages continue on. I'm really hopeful that there'll be a lessening of this pretty quickly. But we are in uncharted territory, and this is the way it's going to be for at least some time. So we might as well, I suppose, dig in as best we can. But the supermarket is not like anything else I've ever seen before right now. There's a real anxiety in the air. People are really concerned. And I just want everyone to be as calm as possible under the circumstances. So that's where we're at. There was a debate last night. I watched some of it. My first big takeaway was, oh gosh, there are so many Statler and Waldorf jokes I want to make here. So many Statler and Waldorf jokes. But I then went online, I saw that other people had already beaten me to them, and I realized, oh, I don't want to be that guy that's making the obvious Statler and Waldorf jokes. So I had to skip past that. It was a reminder that audiences in debates are not a good idea. Audiences are extraneous. I don't think we should have audiences. Not worth it. You end up just having the candidates play to the audience, I think, more than they even realize. And also all the interruptions and all the nonsense from people cheering and booing and all this. It's just not a good idea. So I do not recommend we ever go back to having audiences at the debate. And really, the basic contention here of liberals today, especially the ones who hate Trump, we played some of those sound bites for you, the basic contention they have is, if we had Biden or Bernie in charge, we'd be in much better shape now. It's just not true. Why would we think that's true? What evidence of any kind is there to support that notion? I would want someone to tell me what exactly they can show me that makes me think that Joe Biden, who I think is a really just, and I don't say it to be mean. I mean, yes, he seems like he's lost a step. He does seem too old for this. Bernie Sanders is definitely too old for this. So you got two guys who are clearly too old for the position, who are unimpressive, who have shown no real leadership skills or vision or ability to execute. And their entire careers have really just been about getting reelected. These are lifetime career elected officials, which is not what we really even want in this country. Of course, now some of you are yelling term limits, and I totally agree with you, but you're never going to get term limits because the people that have to put term limits in place are the people that would have to abide by them, and they don't want to. So Biden and Bernie, they've been in this game for a very, very long time, and they don't look like they want to change anything about that, right? They're happy to continue to fight it out, and Bernie Sanders will continue to be a senator. I've also really come around to the point of view that Bernie never really wanted to win because he's not willing to do what's necessary. He wants to be the radical who's loved by his side, but is also still well regarded by the Democrat establishment. He's not willing to take on the establishment. He just plays the role. Bernie Sanders is really like some of the conservatives who go on CNN for the last couple of years. I remember I used to be one, but that was before CNN was completely insane. I mean, Dana Lash, my dear friend, Dana is a fierce conservative. She was a CNN contributor years and years ago. I was a CNN contributor years ago. I mean, you look at a number of people who are part of the movement and who have been, doing this for a long time and are stalwarts. We used to be able to do CNN, and it was never friendly, but now they're completely insane. Bernie is kind of like the conservatives who are on the payroll at CNN, not including never Trumpers. But Bernie's like a conservative on the payroll at CNN right now who, makes a little noise about, no, Trump's doing a good job, but then is essentially told, hey, shut up and just take the beating. You're here to take a beating. You're not here to make your case. That's where we are with Bernie and the Democratic apparatus, the Democratic Party. He's not allowed to win. He knows it, and he's not willing to do what's necessary to fight back to get through the system. So that's where I think it is right now. But now we can get into some of the specifics of what they said. Because I'm going to be honest with you. The debate sucked. It was boring. It was not worth anyone's time. I watched like the first 30, 40 minutes of it. And then this morning I woke up. I'm going to tell you the truth. I woke up and read the transcript. I couldn't sit through the whole, I couldn't sit through it. I kind of want to do my own version of a Bernie Biden debate and just sort of make it up as I go along. That'd be a fun sketch to do. But I'll give you some of the main points here. And my biggest thing, though, from the very beginning, because they focused on coronavirus from the outset, why would we really think that Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, who have never successfully run anything, don't understand delegation? Joe Biden keeps talking about his VP experience. Anybody could be a VP. Come on, let's be honest. It's like a show-up job. You just got to show up. That's it. They say he was in charge of this, that, and the other thing. That's all nonsense. I mean, he was in charge of Ukraine policy, which was helpful for Hunter Biden. But does anyone think that we look at the Obama administration's Ukraine policy as some kind of great victory to be celebrated? I don't think so. But Biden, Bernie, I honestly, as a human being first, before a commentator or somebody who cares about politics and all those other things, I would not feel one bit better if we could switch Trump with Bernie or Biden with Bernie. I would honestly and truly, I really mean this, I would feel markedly worse about our prospect right now if we could just switch out who the president was with either of these two top Democrats. I honestly would feel worse about it. I mean, that's from the bottom of my heart, that's how I feel. And the debate did not make that go away at all. It only strengthened that feeling.
To be clear, Senator Sanders, Cuba has been a dictatorship for decades. Shouldn't we judge dictators by the violation of human rights and not by any of their alleged achievements?
Well, I think you can make the same point about China. China is undoubtedly an authoritarian society, okay? But would anybody deny, any economists deny, that extreme poverty in China today is much less than what it was 40 or 50 years ago? That's a fact. So I think we condemn authoritarianism, whether it's in China, Russia, Cuba, any place else. But to simply say that nothing ever done by any of those administrations had a positive impact on their people would, I think, be incorrect.
Bernie still doesn't get it. Keeps doubling down. It's because this is who he really is. He's not going to change because this is what Bernie's all about. He's a Marxist. He believes, he has to believe. This is why it's so important. This is not a secondary point. This isn't something that just conservative commentators will bring up to bash Bernie, although that's fun too. This is Bernie Sanders showing you that he has always thought that the communist regimes, the Marxist and socialist regimes of history have done some things well, and that then gives the justification in his mind for us to try to use the basic foundation, the basic economic and social and political framework of those countries in our own way, because we'll just take the good stuff without the bad stuff, which is another way of saying Bernie Sanders does not understand. He fundamentally does not understand or doesn't care to understand, meaning he just pretends that he can't learn these things, why these societies had the problems that they did. That societies that do not privilege individual rights, freedom of the individual, property, and rule of law over amorphous conceptions of equality and social justice as determined by a left-wing elite. There are reasons why that always fails. And the little things that may be done here or there that aren't horrifically bad. Also, I mean, to point to Cuba's health system as some kind of a good idea is absurd. Nobody would rather be in a Cuban health. Nobody would rather, who has a brain that functions, would rather be in a Cuban hospital than an American hospital or a British hospital, a Canadian hospital. So why even bring it up? It's so strange. And then when he remarks about China and how China has improved its economy by doing capitalism. China is authoritarian capitalism. That's why it's made all of it. So Bernie doesn't seem to understand that if you want to raise people out of poverty, the lesson you take from China is let the market work its magic more. The lesson that Bernie Sanders takes from China is, they're communist and they've been able to do well, so communism must be okay economically. And they're not even really, it's not a communist system anymore. It hasn't been for a long time. But he takes the wrong lessons. And this is why he's been able to be so wrong for 50 years now. He does not understand why the Marxism that he peddles and has always peddled is a failure. It will always be a failure. It will never work. And this is where you get like the slogans, but it's true. You know, socialism fails everywhere that it has been tried. There are reasons for that. It is not an accident. It's not just happenstance. Next time we'll do it better. Next time we'll figure out how to make sure the shelves are not bare during a crisis. If you want bare shelves, the best system you can have is socialism. Because they'll tell you that you have a right to those loaves of bread. There just won't be any loaves of bread in the store. And if you complain, you're a counter-revolutionary. Maybe you care too much about yourself. Maybe you should be locked up.